Hey everyone, Dan Furr here. So today I want to kind of discuss a little bit of a simple topic, and maybe it's not so simple, but it's kind of a bit of a showing my opinion, but also asking yours as much as well. Have we gotten to a point where you only really need one VST or one synth to do it all, right? With Serum 2's new upgrade, the way I look at it is it can do just about anything I need a synth to do. Now, there are a couple of debates and a couple of arguments that I can see that I kind of touch on through the video. But for the most part, when we're talking about a digital VST synth, I don't feel there's much Serum can't do. I don't actually personally feel there's anything Serum can't do that benefits me or my workflow. So this is kind of as much as a question as anything, because I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Do you feel like we've gotten into a state where Serum 2 or potentially other synths are a one-stop shop where you don't actually need another VST? Or do you feel like having a collection of them still is warranted in this day and age? And, I'm going to go over my thoughts and my opinions, but again, I'm really stoked to hear yours because since Serum 2's release, this has been something I've been pondering quite heavily. So let's get into it. So, for starters, right, we have three oscillators, as well as a noise oscillator and a sub-oscillator. The noise oscillator can basically be a sampler or just a noise, whatever, right? It basically allows us to choose whatever samples. So this is a built-in sampler. Each one of these oscillators can also be a sampler, right? Via just simple multi-sample, regular sample, or granular or spectral, which are just varying different ways to create wonderful little sounds, right? We've got this easy granular patch here that I made up. And we can see, I'm not really using any envelopes, any modulation on this source, and listen how dynamic it is. Just so expressive, so powerful. Being able to stack multiple of these, add regular oscillators on top, it's just absolutely, it can do it all. It has literally all the filter options you can need. They give you two different filter options. Now this, I guess, is where things can get a little debatable here, right? Because there's so many different filters where it all comes down to such specifics, especially in the analog realm, right? So this is where I definitely see the argument where, having multiple filters in different sources and different realms is gonna do you a lot of benefit and a lot of favor. But the ability to basically add unlimited filters through the two filters you have here, but also you go into the effects, right? Because we can now split things up, we can add filters onto our main channel here, and these have all the same kinds of filters, and we can stack pretty much unlimited filters, as many as we want before our CPU dies on us. And that is something I'm absolutely so stoked about, because it's so nice to be able to filter things at various different sections, right? Because synthesis and sound is all about signal flow, right? Sound can't go backwards, it only goes forwards. So the ability to manipulate and change things at the varying sections in our signal chain can be so helpful, because it really allows us to fine-tune the sound exactly when and where it's going to be helpful. And Serum 2 can do that in so many different ways. And on top of that, we can add our EQs at varying sections of the effects chain, which is very nice as well. The next thing I'm so stoked about on Serum 2 is all the different ways you can manipulate the harmonics at the core of the wave shape, right? Wave folding, manipulating the actual harmonics of the source itself is the key of synthesis, right? That's how we find our sweet spots. And it gives us so many different options, from warps to distortion to sample rate reductions of the waveform itself, all the way to being able to, phase modulation, frequency modulation, amplitude modulation, and ring modulated by all the varying oscillators at whatever degree you want, creating just so much cross modulation, so much ability to do what you want to do with it. I've already touched on this a little bit, but I haven't found many synths that have a better routing, that you can route the effects into separate buses to really be able to mix the patches in Serum. This is allowing me to actually mix patches in Serum where I don't have to go and mix them after the fact, right? Because you can send the effects to a separate bus, mix them cleanly, and still have your core sound coming through your main source completely unaffected, right? We've got our different buses here, we've got our main. We can really manipulate how we create the signal flow of this sound, which is, again, what makes synthesis work, is being able to find the signal flow in the direction and the path you want. The effects unit on Serum is definitely something that sounds wonderful. I'm curious on your opinions on whether you think it's the best effects unit, But personally, the effects in a synthesizer for me are not what makes a synthesizer a synth, right? It's the sound source, it's the oscillators, it's the filters and the modulation capabilities that really make it what it is. And Serum has all of those twofold. So from my perspective, Serum 2 can do pretty much anything I want out of a synth, or anything I want out of a digital VST, I suppose that is. And I'm curious to hear your opinions. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel there's a couple of quirks or some annoyances with it? Do you feel like there's things you preferred about Serum 1? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. So hope you enjoyed the video today. I'm really curious to hear your opinions. If you didn't mind, I'd love it if you liked it, gave me a subscribe, and hopefully tune in for the next one, because I'm all here to talk about synths, and I'd love to hear you talk about your synths as well. So give me a shout. Cheers. Have a good one.